So, in the beginning of my step, it starts with the books falling over. So the books fall, and when they fall and hit the cup, they trigger the distance sensor, which then turns the LED on. So then the books knock over the cup, which has the ball in it. The ball rolls out, rolls down the ramp, and then bounces off the seat of the chair. The cup was also taped down to the table, so that way the cup didn't fall with the ball. It just tips over. The wooden plank is also taped to the table so that wouldn't move. And then the chair was used, that way the ball would bounce better, because the ball bounced better on the chair than on the floor. Also, the chair was used so that the angle of the ramp wouldn't be too steep. That way the ball had a chance to bounce, because it wasn't rolling too fast. And yeah.
So my sequence starts with the paper towel rolls taped to the wall, and the ball alternates through them as it goes towards the ground. The only change I made was adding bumpers to the end of each tube so the ball wouldn't fly out the end. After that, I set up textbooks to act kind of as a funnel so that the ball goes up to the distance sensor. And so after the ball goes up to the distance sensor, it sets off the servo, which knocks over the dominoes. And in the domino chain, I have it increase to 3 dominoes wide so that it can knock over a cassette tape, which then knocks over some Pokemon games and then books. And all of those items I had in increasing size so that it could all actually fall because the dominoes itself couldn't knock over the biggest book. And then after that, the book hits the edge of the bigger rubber ball, which then falls and rolls through the tube.
In this sequence, a ball is released down a ramp. As it hits that end of the ramp, it is set in front of a sensor. That sensor notices the change in distance from it to the object in front and triggers a servo motor. Attached to that servo motor is a propeller created out of plastic knives. That propeller is set so once triggered by the distance sensor, it will knock a ball off the edge of the desk. That ball is tethered to one of two paper wedges holding up a cup of water. So once the ball is pushed off the desk, it takes one of the paper wedges with it, allowing the cup to be fully knocked over and the water to fall down the ramp and into another cup.
Okay, so the previous step ended with water flowing down a ramp, so that's how this one begins. So the water starts up there and then flows down into this pot, which is supposed to symbolize the water purification theme, because boiling water is a method of purifying water. So then the water level rises in the pan, and the distance sensor, once the water reaches a certain level, will trigger the servo up there to release the ball down the ramp. I used stands because I realized that they would be helpful because the height can be adjusted and they can rotate 360 degrees, so it makes it helpful to position all the different components on top. And as far as this structure, I did some preliminary calculations to try to determine how tall this would need to be in order for the ball to trigger the next step, but those were unsuccessful, so it was really just trial and error and basically stacking a bunch of books up on top of each other until the mechanism worked. So the ball is released once the servo is triggered and goes down this ramp, and then falls off the end and then hits this fan. So this fan begins already turned on and it hits the button here to make it rotate. And as it rotates, it comes in contact with this card, which blows over and turns this record needle. This wasn't my original plan, but when I originally tested this part of the steps, the fan was not strong enough to blow the record needle by itself, so I had to put something in front of it in order to get that to work. So as the turntable spins, this yarn winds up and pulls out this stopper out of this funnel. And in this funnel is water, so once that stopper is pulled out, the water empties into the container below, and then there's water in this other cup as a counterweight. So this will end up going down like that, and that hits the roller, which pushes this book off the table and ends up pulling this other book that's in here with it, which turns this level surface into a ramp, and that's how the bowling ball falls off the table and then pulls this rope, which is tied to 500 grams of water, and that lifts it off the ground.